Meeting to order. Welcome to the Lee Select Board meeting. Today is February 18th, 2025. I'd like to inform everybody that this meeting is being recorded, audio and video recording, and that's pursuant to, I don't have the paper in front of me, but
it's Mass General Law anyway.
there we go.
Yeah.
Pursuant to Mass General Law. So you're being recorded. Gordon is under the weather tonight, so with that, I'll conduct our first order of business. We have minutes from open session February 4th meeting, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the open session minutes of February 4th, 2025.
Second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second order of business, we have public comment. If there's anybody in-house who has some public comment, please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and let us know what you have to say.
Hi, Kathy Hall, Lee Youth Commission. The Lee Youth Commission needs volunteers to shovel the snow off the ice rink once the rain and snow stops. Unfortunately, until then, the rink remains closed. The weather is not only keeping us from skating, but also has postponed the activities for the neighborhood ninjas. The Conquer the Course is rescheduled for Saturday, March 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Crossway Tower Gym, and the Ninja Fit fundraiser dinner party is rescheduled for Saturday, April 26th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Greenock Country Club. Never fear, there is always something to do at the library. The Lee Library is hosting a series of activities at the library for this week. Wednesday, February 19th, Sensational Stories at 11 a.m. and Pokemon Club Pizza and Movie Party noon to 2 p.m. Thursday, February 20th, Frelingenhausen Morris House and Studio Art Workshop in the gallery at 1 p.m. Registration is required, and you can do capital L, capital N, lowercase azarov at cwmars.org. Friday, February 21st, bowling at the Lee Library starting at 1 p.m. Registration is required. You can go online, Lee at cwmars.org. And Saturday, February 22nd, Inroads Climate Workshop, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Peter J. Scarborough Gallery Meeting Room. For information, you can email the library at leelibraryma.org, or you can call the library at 243-0385. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy. Anybody else here with public comment? Anybody online? You see any hands, Chris? I don't.
Nope.
All right, we'll move to our general business section. Our first order of general business, we have an overview from the Eagle Mill about their phase 2. And I believe we have some people here on Zoom.
We have Eileen and Matt.
Yeah, Eileen, Matt. First of all, I'd like to say thanks I appreciate the progress over there. It looks starting to look great, and can't wait till we get some people living there. But please go ahead, tell us where you're at and what you have planned for phase 2.
Okay, well, I totally agree. We can't wait to have people living there. So good evening, everyone. I'm Eileen Peltier. I'm the CEO at Parkway, and Matt Crockey, the Director of Real Estate Development, is with me tonight. Matt's going to take the lead on our presentation, but I just wanted to, introduce ourselves. Thank you for your support, previous and ongoing, for phase 1, lots of letters of support on the work that you did. Now we're back for phase 2, and we will be tonight. I know you wrote a lovely letter after the meeting on the 4th. And we appreciate that, but we thought with our application coming up at the end of the month that if we could have the conversation about the actual dollar amount of the funding commitment, that would help our application. So that's part of the reason we're here tonight. I certainly just want to take a moment. We have significant state historic credits in this project, and the Historic Commission has written us letters of support every 3 months for several years now. We've gone through this, so I just want to call them out and thank them for continuing to do that. It's just the way the process works, but we appreciate that. So tonight we're hoping that the select board will be able to commit $100,000 in support towards the Eagle Mill Phase 2. But we can talk about that at the end, but I just wanted to put that out there. I will hand it off to Matt, and we're going to kind of overview where things are at with Phase 1, talk a little bit about Phase 2, and then we're happy to answer any questions. And I think Matt wanted to do a PowerPoint, so.
Yes, we're going to allow him right now.
Just give
We
us a
should be good,
second.
Matt.
Yeah.
Great. Is that visible for the most
Yep.
part?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Let's see here. Sorry, for some reason I'm having trouble advancing the slides now. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm Matt Kropke, the Director of Real Estate Development for Hearthway. We are in a partnership with Breeze Larkin Development on creating the housing units here at the Eagle Mill site. We are basically working our way through Phase 1, which is the 56 units of a mixed income affordable housing inside the old Eagle and Union Mill buildings. Here's some photos of where we are last week, which gives you an indication that a lot of the interior work that's going on right now is the framing, sheetrock, roughing of plumbing, electrical, and MEP work. So a lot of it's a good time of year to be working inside, so that's what's going on now. They're able to get a roof on to keep it dry and get the trades in there to doing their stuff. So we are expecting to be complete and occupied this December, slightly longer than we'd hoped, but we're working at a good clip right now and really happy with the progress. This is basically an overview of the site and what was approved prior. What we'll be talking about is jumping into Phase 2 here. So we, looking at the east side of the property, there's this future residential Phase 2, and that's new construction, which is what we'll be talking about for the most part tonight. So we are basically in the status where we had applied to the state Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities for a pre-application, which was approved for an application for more tax credits and state soft debt to give us enough funding to jump into Phase 2. With the pre-application approved now at the end of this month, we need to submit our full application, which is in the works. We are proposing the new construction, one building, 4 stories residential, combination of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms with community amenities and to do our best environmentally, we're proposing passive house construction here. Similar to Phase 1, we're going to do a mixed incomes with, you can see this slide. So we've got the workforce housing, which is 80% and above of area median income. We have 20 units proposed. And for reference, with Phase 1, we also have 20 units. the LIHTC, which is the low income housing tax credit units, which have a max of 60% area median income. We're adding 16, phase one was 28. And for what's the lowest income range of 30% AMI, we're adding 8 units again to this project. So it's a good mix of affordabilities.
Matt, just to clarify, the workforce housing is, I believe, up to 80% AMI. On phase one, we were able to do 100%, right? At the current, so it's not 80 and above, it's up to 80.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
A little bit higher, but not, market rate.
And when it comes to unit mix, as far as unit sizing, we're proposing 15 one-bedroom apartments as opposed to phase one, which are 24. 24 two-bedroom apartments, which is the same as we had in the first phase, and 5 three-bedroom apartments, slightly lower than the 8 we have being built right now in phase one. Oh, so with the pre-application approved, like I said, we're working to get this finalized application. What's really important at this stage of the game is demonstrating support from the local community. That would be the town lead. So we'd love to be able to include a commitment for funding to the project as we submit this. If all goes well and this application is approved, we would anticipate construction beginning in 2026 and ideally being completed in 2027.
Can you just go back to the picture of the building, the elevation one? So, on first glance, I think it may look a little bit like a boring building, but it is intentionally trying to look a little bit like the mill, but of course it will not be brick. It will be 2-color hardy plank, and I can tell you that I did a project similar to this once with, historic building and new construction, and they can look very nice together. And then just if you can go back to the site plan.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Just make a comment on the phase 3 at this point. So obviously.
Can you, sorry to interrupt Eileen, but Matt, can you kind of just give people a general sense of when you're talking about phase 1, phase 2, what those, aspects of the project are?
Can anyone see my cursor?
Maybe.
Or not?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, we can.
Phase 1 is if you're looking at the site, it's the big brick structure that's the Eagle and Union Mills combined.
Yeah.
And that is right now where the majority of the work is happening. And that's going to be this December. We're hoping to open up and have 56 apartments in that existing structure. Now going to the east, to the far end of the site, we have a vacant land that we're proposing to build this new construction of 44 apartments, which would comprise phase 2.
So that's on the right of.
On the right of the screen here.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. So that's not actually going to be on West Center Street. That's over sort of along the railroad tracks as you head down the river.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then what would comprise future phasing, phase 3, would be work in this machine shop,
Yep.
which is an existing structure, and then new construction along the river here to the west of the existing buildings.
Actually, Matt, it's the machine shop and then it's new construction along West Center Street. So replacing the homes that were there. The townhouses that are shown on this approved site plan for along the river remains to be seen whether or not we will do that project as well. That's currently still being considered as a possible market rate. But our thought on phase 3 is that we will at least do the machine shop and then along West Center Street.
Right. Understood. Okay, thank you just for context, and I think I interrupted you, Eileen, sorry.
No, that's okay. That was exactly what I was gonna do. So that's why I wanted to show this, just to go over the different phases so you're clear on where we're at with it. So, you know, we were very pleased to be invited into this funding round. It is highly, highly competitive, as you can imagine. The whole state is experiencing significant challenges around housing, and they've had more pre-application pre-apps than they've ever had. So we were thrilled to be invited into the funding round, and we are just trying to do absolutely everything we can to be one of the projects that gets picked. If we are not picked this year, we don't see that as a reflection of lack of interest at all in the project. It will just be a timing thing. So if we get in, hopefully we'll get in this year. If not, it will be kicked out, till next year, just because of competitiveness, or possibly a fall 2025 mini round. But EOHLC is really inundated with projects across the state, but they obviously, recognized when they supported phase one that they would be, asked to support the other phases. So we're optimistic, and if we are funded this year, we should hear in June. So we're happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
I believe Chris talked you through on the 4th how you'll get another chunk of money from the project. And just to clarify, so our request for $100,000 in support is not, we're not looking for a check. It can be towards the end of construction of phase 2, which, depending on the timing, is 2 to 3 years out.
Yep. And once the project is permitted, the state will send us, I believe it's $132,000 in density payments.
Yeah.
There is an expectation that some of that will go back to
the
a good
project,
portion of that.
yeah.
So it wouldn't be that we're raising and appropriating this with taxes or anything. We'd be taking some of that density payment and giving it, putting it back into the project. So
I just have a couple questions, Eileen, Matt. You said phase 1 anticipating completion roughly in December. Do you envision people residing in the mill building at that point in time? It might be a little bit longer, or?
So the way that we typically do our lease-up process, hey Matt, can you get rid of the PowerPoint so we can have people a little better maybe? We will be starting to accept applications about 60 days prior to certificate of occupancy. So let's just do a scenario where Matt hands our leasing team the CO on December 1st. That means October 1st we would start, maybe even earlier than that, maybe into September, we'd start accepting applications. We would do a lottery probably in November, and then we would go through the process of approving people to move in. It typically takes, for 56 units with the mix of, it's gonna take us 3 to 4 months to fully lease it up, just because it just takes time to work through all the applications. And then as you can imagine, we have very specific order and way that is done. So people could start to move in as early as December 1st. If the certificate of occupancy is available, we'll have people ready to go in, but it will take a little while to get fully leased up.
Thanks. And I'm just curious, when you say passive house construction for the phase 2, what does that entail?
It's basically a term that it means doing as much as you can to use as limited resources as possible to heat and cool the building.
Understood.
So it incorporates lots of insulation and air gaps treatment and stuff like that, but it also has to do with the orientation of the building for the sun, the windows. It's a very long checklist that involves a consultant to go through every point, but it's one of the higher degrees of environmental levels of construction you can have, and it's so for long-term sustainability, it limits basically, like I said, heating and cooling energies. This one, we're also not going to be using gas to this new building, so it's going to be all electric and also incorporate solar.
So what it is, you know, it's pretty much in the industry considered the highest standard that you can do in a multifamily building like this. You know, they probably started doing the first one maybe a decade ago. It both helps our application. The state of Massachusetts, you know, gives points. We would have to do what's called the Enterprise Green Standard anyways, which is a pretty high standard. Passive house design takes it a little bit higher, triple glazed windows, very intense outside insulation of the whole building envelope, and like Matt said, you know, the way that the building is facing, but you know, it's pretty much the standard to do a lot around this, both because it's important for Mother Earth, but it's also, you know, these buildings can be costly to operate, and you know, this will certainly help with the operational costs in a building like this.
Yeah, thank you. Bob, do you have any questions?
No.
Yeah, I guess we're up to, you know, deciding on the $100,000 commitment, whether or not we want to, would we make a motion for that, to do that?
For the commitment, we wouldn't actually do, you know, provide it until the
Completion of phase
till the-
2, right?
Yeah, we don't even have to wait till completion, but the money would be available to us when a building permit's issued, so some
Understood.
point between then and completion, right, Eileen, that would be fine.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's, you know, lots of sources, and whenever it's sort of convenient for you all to provide that funding would be greatly appreciated.
The commitment now would be helpful for the application.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
so what we would do is sort of take that letter from, that was approved on February 4th and just change that sentence to, you know, the select board has committed $100,000. Right now it says, you know, you provide some level of financial support. This would just be clear what the number is, and we'd be all set until, you know, we're getting a building permit and sometime after that.
Right. And just to reiterate what Chris had mentioned earlier, this is money coming from the state because of our smart overlay district and the development that's happening there that the town receives funds for, and now we're talking about committing a portion of those funds back to the developer.
We would never get those funds without the project
Right,
anyway.
in the first place, so, as far as I'm concerned, I'm for committing the funds. Bob, if you are, do we need?
Yeah.
That would be the motion, right?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we commit $100,000 to the project, the Eagle Mill Phase 2, that money to come out of that $132,000
Density bonus.
density bonus from the state.
I'll second that. And I guess I'll open it up for discussion. If anybody has any questions as far as what's going on, and anybody on Zoom, please feel free at this point, but I don't really see anybody having any questions, so with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, I hope that helps your project.
Absolutely,
And-
we much appreciate it. And Chris, if you can just update that letter and
yeah.
send it off, and we'll be in great shape for the application. And you know, please know if you ever have questions when you're driving by or curious about something, please feel free to reach out. You know, Matt is there most Wednesdays, and John Rosinski sends his regrets. He had another engagement tonight, or he would have been here with us as well.
Very good. Well, thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice evening.
All right, moving on, our next order of business, we have, let's continue over from our last meeting, but we have an impact fee discussion with Green Theory.
So we have Harsh and James online.
Harsh and James are both online. Please introduce yourselves, and it's before we go ahead, actually, it's my understanding that the odor mitigation efforts that you guys have taken on has been working. I think it's definitely, but it's cost you some funds, and so what we're sort of looking at here is giving some of those funds back, the impact money back, to offset some of those costs. But please go ahead and introduce yourselves to everybody, and let me know if my understanding is correct there.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for accommodating the last meeting. It's been a great journey in the cannabis space, just in general, and seeing what the updates are in Berkshire County in terms of all the developments that are happening, the housing development right before us. We're extremely proud to call Lee, Massachusetts our home, and so thank you so much for letting my small business thrive in our small town. So yeah, it's been a great year, and you hit the nail on the head exactly. The odor mitigation system we put in place, it's been a work in progress. It was, with anything, it takes a little bit of, a lot of input and elbow grease, but yeah, the system is working, and we are continuing to monitor the levels and open to feedback. And with the help of the town, we've kind of established a pretty clean pipeline in terms of just calling the facility and essentially letting us dial the system, and it's going to be an ongoing effort. And so I appreciate the town's patience and everyone cooperating, and yeah, we're here to make it work. And in terms of operating the system, like you said, that is exactly what we are trying to go ahead and essentially asking the board, because it was one of these variables that, again, in implementing a strategy for, I had not factored in. And so this is, this is part of an ongoing thing. It's almost akin to a subscription, and we're working with the company to essentially, work with the pricing on the unit costs and stuff. But that's where that introduction was great. Like I said, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, so Chris, I'll hand it over to you to kind of explain the particulars, but what we're looking at over here is a year-to-year, basically, cost assessment of what from this year to 2025 of the fee, and then also what we're asking from Aruna Green Theory is just a log of your odor, the use log of your odor mitigation system, just so that we're all working together, continuing this relationship. But Chris, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so it's basically we're eliminating HCA fees over the course of from basically starting in 2023 to 2026. By 2026 there'd be no more fees.
Yep.
So the system is costing a fair amount of money to put in, which we negotiated with them in 2023, and our understanding, it's also costing money to continue and maintain. So the board has a proposal right now, which would drop those, would basically allow half those fees for $17,000 in 2024 to go back into the operating expenses of the system. And then the same in 2025, dropping that in half to 8, and then all fees would go away in 2026.
Yeah. So we're basically looking at about 25 grand over the 2 years that we're gonna essentially credit back to them for use of the system. Is that Harsh, that's agreeable to you as far as everything goes?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty fair way of putting it. And again, I do appreciate it. What I would, like to do, if we can just take the data points back and have just a couple of days, and we can go ahead and come back with the town. And that way I can make sure everything is aligned on our end. And if there's anything we need to check off, I just want to be better prepared. And so,
Yeah.
That would be great if you can.
Yeah, if the board is good with this, I can ask, I can send it to Harsh, and then we can countersign at the next meeting in March.
Bob, do you have any questions?
Do we need to vote on this tonight, or are we just going to sort of continue?
I don't think we need to vote until they sign it, and then you can vote to countersign
Okay.
at the next meeting. But kind of our
Okay,
initial
in general,
discussion, which would drop, basically putting 17,000 into the SRO, 17,000 into their odor mitigation versus the full 35 and
Okay.
into the SRO. And then that number drops in half. Well, actually, we're in 2025 already, so
Yeah.
this year, and then it's gone completely in 2026, so.
Very good. So when we get the specifics, we'll act on it next time.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, well, Harsh, James, thanks for coming, and I think we're gonna turn this around at our next meeting, but if you guys have anything further, if not, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
All right.
Appreciate it. You guys have always been incredibly supportive of this project, and really appreciate your continued support to it. Chris in particular, really appreciate how you're always willing to talk to us, hear us out, and, try to come up with a mutually beneficial solution. It's really a fantastic relationship that's been built there. So thank you all so much, and looking forward to many years of continued operation.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
And thank you guys again for taking the odor mitigation issue seriously. I think we're right on the cusp if we can dial that in, because I haven't been getting a lot of complaints lately, so thank you guys.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this might be the time to bring this up. I have personally not voted on any cannabis issues since I came on the board in 2021, because I was a part-time employee at Canna Provisions. I have not been an employee of Canna Provisions since May of 2024. So in the future, I have no financial relationship with them whatsoever. So in the future, I will be voting on this and anything to do with any of the cannabis operations in town.
Very well. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Our next order of business, we have the Greener Gateway here, and there is a request for support of zero waste outdoor events. And maybe Peter, you can come up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more.
Okay. I'm Peter Hoffman. I'm the chair of the Greener Gateway Committee, and we have been working, probably 10 years to try to minimize waste at town events, and it started with Founders Weekend, and it expanded so that, for example, if there are events in the park that have food, crafts fair, jazz festival, after Memorial Day, Tools has a barbecue. We're there set up to try to minimize waste. And it's a lot for our white-haired committee. Why does this matter? It matters because Massachusetts ships almost half its weight out of state, as far away as Alabama and Ohio. So it's not just the waste that we have too much of, but all the greenhouse gases to ship that stuff. I can't believe we're having our waste processed that far out of state. The food waste, which is part of what we collect, and I also ought to mention that when the church has community dinners, we're there to gather the food waste to get that composted. We worked with Meadow Farm to set up the food waste shed outside their gate. It wasn't operating full time last year. We've been promoting it. They got 4.5 tons of food waste at that shed last year for about 6-7 months of activity. So one goal is to help the state reduce the amount of waste that we have so we don't have to send it so far. The other thing is that a lot of the food waste goes to a landfill. And rotting food waste generates methane, which over the first 20 years is 80 times worse than carbon dioxide in terms of climate change. And it's avoidable. We're fortunate to have Meadow Farm here. We're fortunate to have companies that will deal with food waste and compost it. Right now, our committee is supporting the school's effort to separate food waste. And we're, out of our grants from the state, we're paying the monthly cost of the high school, middle high school, and elementary school for them to take their food waste out of the waste stream. There's another factor which we've seen in, especially in our Founders Weekend work, is that there's really an educational value to have people see where their different trash waste goes. People are surprised that certain things can be composted rather than put in the trash, and that awareness helps, I think, everyone, and helps Lee be more sustainable. So what we thought was, there are a number of events that take place in town that involve food, and we provided a package to you with some of the rationale of why we're asking for you to support us in this, and also gave you a memo for anyone who's hosting an event, which reviews the process, gives them some tips. It includes a piece that we jointly developed with Tri-Town Health Department on how to minimize food waste, what kind of products you can use that are compostable, and depending how much advance notice we get, we'll be there to help. We could help them set up. We will provide signs, bins, pickup tools, gloves, whatever's needed for these organizations to minimize their waste. And it's voluntary, and if they don't want to do it, and we can do it, then we will. If we can't do it, then we won't be able to help out. Any questions?
I don't have any. Bob, you got any questions?
So tonight you're just looking for us to support this?
Well, if people come in apparently for like a short-term permit for an event,
Yes.
if you could just encourage them, say, here's this
That's
material.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Absolutely.
could, take on this responsibility, our committee will help. But if you have a 6-hour event going on in the park, we can't cover everyone.
Right.
Yeah, I think the idea, anytime anyone comes in for an event permit,
Maybe we give this a
one-day
staple
alcohol
to it.
license,
Oh, yeah,
anything
okay.
like
Yeah.
that, that could potentially be related to an event, then we would give them this as basically the board recommended policy on recycling and zero waste, so.
Yeah, great.
So I think what they're looking for is the board to endorse this as the policy that would go with, or the recommended policy that would go with any applications related to an event.
Right, and you can just include that memo to the host, and the Tri-Town document is part of the package, and I think that'll last for a long time. We've tried to update it as much as we could. Yep, that would be great.
I'd entertain a motion at this point, Bob.
So I enthusiastically move that we support the zero waste options being provided by Lee Green at Gateways, and that we organize ourselves and do these handouts for these events, for the permits for these events. Yeah.
Second? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Could I
you.
make, since I have
Please,
the
please.
stage for a second, it's about Founders Weekend. As I mentioned, we've worked for close to 10 years trying to minimize waste at Founders Weekend. I also mentioned our white hair. We had a bunch of no-shows last September, and our members, it's not sustainable for us to carry the load that we carry in order to get this done. And we've looked at a number of options, and people say, well, why don't you just cut down the number of stations you have? Well, before we had the number of stations we did, we started off just in the middle of the street, and the trash bins on the sidewalk were overflowing. And it was terrible for the town. So we added the sidewalks as part of our responsibility. We tried being as creative as we could to get volunteers. We have been successful. Last year, we diverted 90% of the waste to either recycling or composting. We composted 500 pounds of food waste and other materials last Founders Weekend. We can't, if we don't get more volunteers, we just can't do it again. I don't want to do a job that's not complete, that's not going to have the town looking really good. And we've looked at a number of different options. If you all have any ideas how we could get more volunteers, we've already started recruiting. So we're recruiting on Facebook and Nextdoor, and we post it on the website. And we have handouts that we're going to put at the table downstairs and at the library. So we're trying to encourage people to do it. Valerie Blum, who's our vice chair, has 180 names on her list, mostly from people who volunteered for street cleanup, roadside cleanups. Somehow people who do roadside cleanups aren't as interested in working during Founders Weekend to help us minimize waste. The shifts are small. You still can enjoy the weekend. People appreciate what we do. We just have had a heck of a time trying to get volunteers. So we're open to suggestions, and we thank you. And the final plug, I thank Kathy for mentioning our event on Saturday from 11 to 1 at the library. It should be really interesting. There is a computer simulation called En-ROADS, which was developed by MIT and another organization. And the simulation enables people to suggest ideas of policies or practices to try to limit climate change. So they put that into the computer, and it comes back with the impact that that will have on a worldwide basis. So it's a live computer, live simulation this Saturday. Should be really interesting. Probably a lot of surprises for people. Anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Peter. All right, moving on. We have a one-day alcohol license application for St. Mary's School. And this is for their annual auction for, I think it's annual, their auction for education. This is at St. Mary's School. It's 115 Orchard Street. The event is March 29th. It's gonna go from 6 to 9, and it's in the gymnasium. Yeah, they're gonna have a bar and desserts and music, live auction, etc. I don't see any issues here. It's already signed off by everybody except us. And I see we have a couple tip certified people who are helping serve, I'm assuming. And we even have a letter from Reverend Brian and Pastor, oh yeah, he is the pastor at St. Mary's. And he says, Dear Town of Lee Select Board, St. Mary's School will host our auction for education on the evening of Saturday, March 29th, 2025 in the school gym. As pastor of St. Mary's School on 115 Orchard Street, Lee, I consent to this event and our application to sell alcoholic beverages at the event. So Bob, I'd entertain a motion.
Waiver on this as well?
Did they? I don't know.
Did you know?
Actually, this is more of a Sabrina question, but I don't see a fee on here.
I don't
so
see it either, yeah.
Okay,
I don't know that there is one.
okay. Well, in that case, I'll make a motion that we approve the one-day alcoholic beverage license for St. Mary's School.
I'll second. There's no further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next order of business, we have a temporary sign permit application from Canna Provisions. This is a sign of 3 feet, it's 3 feet from the ground, that is. It's double-sided. There is an image here attached as well. And it's a little confusing, this application, because they say there's 21 signs, and those are freestanding signs, 21 each side on existing.
The square footage.
That's the square footage.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Each side, I got you now. That clears it up. So it's 21 square feet on each side of the sign. So, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move we approve the sign permit application for Canna Provisions.
And I'll second that, and this is for a 30-day period, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll second that motion. If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and that brings us to our last item of general business. We have here a letter of support authorizing the superintendent to submit statement of interest form to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So I guess
Yeah, there's a specific motion to read here.
Should I read the letter first?
I
guess
think,
it's pretty boilerplate.
yeah, I think the motion sums it up, but up to you.
Well, why don't you give us a little more context, I guess, as far as the whole, what's going on up there?
Yeah, so after a certain period of time, I believe it's 25 years, the school is eligible to get money from the SBA to help replace or renovate certain parts of the school. So believe it or not, we've actually
This is
getting
the
close
roof,
to the
right? Yeah.
25-year mark on the roof of the high school.
Yep.
And also, I believe the elementary school has been 25 years. So in order to go do that application for the school building authority, this needs to be voted on, authorizing the superintendent to do that. It's a letter of, a statement of interest, so that when we get to that point, which I believe is in FY '27, if we, once we get a price to replace the roof on the high school, the state can reimburse a certain percentage of that. If we don't go through this process, the whole thing is on the town. So, the reimbursements, I believe, can be up to, and Mike would have been here tonight. He's actually traveling this week, so he's not able to make it. But my understanding is they can reimburse up to 60% of the project. So we are, as a town, right now, it's on before the finance committee for a town meeting to appropriate the capital needed for the owner's project manager and pre-design and bidding work to be done on this, so that everything's in place for replacement in FY20, hopefully FY27, FY28. So,
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So yeah, we have a motion here, I think we're gonna make.
Feel like I can read the motion?
Please, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 2025 for Lee Elementary School located at 310 Graylock Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which the application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future category 5 roofs where the membrane is peeling back and tearing. Hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Lee to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Second. If there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes our general business for tonight. That brings me to any topic the chair could not reasonably anticipate. I would just like to send a big thank you and, job well done to the DPW staff as always. We had one heck of a winter, snow, ice, rainstorm, whatever you want to call it. It was just for like 2 days long, But thank you. They did a great job. Bob, do you have anything before I hand it over to Chris?
Well, I put my bathing suit away. I was too quick on the draw, but no, I'll second what you said, Sean. Great job to Lenny and the team.
With that, Chris, you got a report for us?
Yeah, so a couple things to mention. We should be coming back to the board, hopefully the next meeting, with a warrant to sign for a special town meeting. It's largely driven by the LYA lease, but there are going to be some other things on it. So we are anticipating a posting for March 20th, 2025 special town meeting to approve the lease that's been discussed by this board over several meetings, but that would be the 99-year lease off of Maple Street for the LYA project. In addition, we're looking at 2 land purchases that the town would like to make. We're putting on there. Also a transfer from DPW capital that has been carried over since 2019 that we want to transfer for new uses. And then we have a couple of previous fiscal year invoices, 2 general bylaws. One is a Parks and Rec Commission bylaw consistent with our master plan. The other will be to form an affordable housing trust in the town of Lee. And then we have 4 zoning bylaws, all related to housing. So I hope to have a draft warrant ready for you guys to discuss and sign at the next meeting. So.
Great.
Thank you.
The other is that I wanted to mention that we have a PCB event going on in Boston on the 27th, so a week from this Thursday. We'll be doing an event down near Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market related to the PCB Rest of River project. And we do have, thanks to HRI has sponsored a bus for that. We do have some room if there's anyone else interested in joining. Call Town Hall. I'm happy to add you to the list. So I don't know if you anything you want to add to that.
First of all, thank you, Chris, for all that you've done. Thank you to Tim Gray and HRI for. This is not a school bus or a Volkswagen bus. This is a regular coach bus that they have paid for completely. So this is an opportunity. It's only one day out of your life. We leave at 8:30 in the morning. We should be back around 4:30 in the afternoon. The event itself is probably going to be about a half hour, 45 minutes. But as Chris says, it's at Faneuil Hall. We've got all the permits. We're going to have a sound system. We're going to have a very interesting array of speakers, but the idea is that we try to generate some interest in not only local press, regional press, and Boston. Lee's a small town. The Berkshires, we get forgotten sometimes. So we're going to go to them this time and see what we can do. But the idea is not just to have a lot of people there for ours. The idea is to have press that has not covered this before be there, and so they can hear our plight. So if you can find the time to take the day, please do.
Call me at Town Hall.
Yeah.
We do have a few spots left, so.
Yep.
Lastly, I just wanted to mention the election calendar has been posted. It was sent out on our e-blast. It's on the news section, and it's also on the town clerk's page. But believe it or not, the process for the 2025 town election is starting. Nomination papers are available, and caucuses will be scheduled in late March early April, and then we will have the annual town meeting and a dual election warrant posted on May 1st for their annual, by May 1st, maybe earlier, for an annual town meeting of May 8th and annual town election of May 12th. So anyone interested in those deadlines, it's all posted online, but we have offices of moderator, select board, planning board, school committee, and housing authority.
Excellent.
Great. Thank you, Chris. If nothing further, our next regular meeting is March 4th, 2025, and I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.